Ready for a deep dive today? We're tackling Annie Duke's How to Decide, the new W1. It's really shifted how I think about making choices, big or small, you know?
It's really fascinating. Duke pushes us to, really look at how we judge those decisions. We base it on how things turn out, right? She calls that resulting,
Yeah, resulting.
which we've all done. Something good happens, we think we're brilliant, goes bad, and, oh, we were so dumb.
Totally. It's easy to fall into that trap. Like, we completely skip over the entire process behind the decision, right? All those factors that went into it.
Exactly. And that's where we actually learn, right? If we don't examine how we actually made the decision, we miss out. Good or bad outcome doesn't matter. We miss the lesson.
It's like that part in the book, that exercise, where Duke asks about people's best and worst decisions. And they always, almost everyone, they describe what happened, not how they decided.
Right.
I caught myself doing that too.
It's totally human nature. But we can actually get past that. A big thing Duke talks about is, well, luck.
Ah, yeah, luck. We don't give it enough credit, do we? Like, how much is outside our control when it comes to success or failure?
Huge. Think about it. Let's say deciding on a new job, right? You're careful, you weigh the pros and cons, the salary, all that. But then, what if a pandemic hits? Or the company downsizes? Suddenly, your careful decision, it's like you made a mistake.
It really makes you think about what you can't predict, all that stuff you can't control.
And that's exactly why it's so important to look at luck versus skill. When we're evaluating those decisions, don't just look at the outcome. What did you know then? What was your reasoning? Did you actually make the best choice you could with what you had at the time?
So it's like a good decision isn't the same as a good outcome. You can be thoughtful, make a smart choice, and things still go wrong. Just stuff you can't control.
Exactly. Duke uses this analogy. It's really interesting. The decision multiverse. Imagine a tree, right, with tons of branches, and each one is a possible outcome stemming from your decision.
Okay, I'm picturing this tree. Yeah. So, like, if I'm deciding whether to invest in my friend's startup, one branch, I make a ton of money, another, I lose it all, and then others are somewhere in between.
Yes, but we tend to focus only on the branch that actually happened to us. We forget about all those other possibilities that existed back when we decided.
We're chainsawing it down to one branch, like Duke says.
Exactly, and that limited view, it messes with what we learn. We just focus on what happened instead of what could have happened. We don't see the role of chance.
So how do we break out of that? Stop thinking one branch. Like, how do we actually use this decision multiverse to learn?
Duke suggests a couple of things. One is really imagine different outcomes. So say you're thinking about switching careers, right? Don't just picture the dream, landing it, double the salary. Think about the challenges too.
Like, what if there's a recession or the job's not a good fit after all?
Right. By thinking those paths through, you're kind of prepared. If they happen, you can make stronger plans.
It's like running simulations, but in your head.
It is. It makes you more aware of all the uncertainty when you make a decision. She also has this tool. It's called the knowledge tracker.
Oh, I love that tool. So simple, but it works.
It does. Basically, it's fighting against hindsight bias, you know?
Yeah.
That I totally knew it all along feeling.
Ugh, the worst. It stops us from really learning from what happened, though.
For sure. That's where the knowledge tracker comes in. Before you decide, write down what you know, what you're assuming, how you're thinking. Then, after things play out, look back, compare.
It's like tracking your thinking over time to see if the outcome is making you remember things wrong.
Yes. And it can be really surprising. You realize maybe you knew way less than you thought, or those assumptions, they were wrong.
Makes you aware of your own biases so you can judge your decisions, well, more honestly. I feel like we often look at things through such a personal lens, you know? Very limited.
That's what Duke calls the inside view. Thinking your situation is unique, overestimating yourself, downplaying luck.
And that leads to bad choices sometimes.
For sure. We might take on too much risk or miss good opportunities because we're so stuck in our own heads. That's why she talks about the outside view to contrast it.
So what is that, the outside view? How do you get it?
It's like zooming out, looking at the bigger picture, not just your own situation. You look for those patterns, the statistics that actually apply to cases like yours.
Instead of thinking you're a special snowflake.
Exactly. Duke has this example asking about the divorce rate at a wedding. Sounds harsh, right? But it shows how we think we're different, even though statistically, a bunch of marriages don't last.
There's that inside view again. We
Yep.
want to think our relationship, our job, our investment, that it's going to beat the odds.
Totally. But the outside view, it grounds us a bit. It's not about being a downer, just realistic.
Yeah.
There are a couple ways to get at that outside view, Duke says.
Okay, yeah, lay 'em on me.
First one, look for those base rates. The stats that matter, they can give you a better picture of what's likely, right? So if you're launching a new product, don't just go on your gut thinking it's $1 million idea. Look at what actually happens with similar products in that whole industry.
So much smarter. Ground your optimism with some actual data.
Exactly.
Okay.
Second thing, feedback. But not just any feedback.
Because people can be, well, kind of biased, even when they're trying to help.
For sure. Our opinions are kind of contagious. Duke talks about this. People will tell you what they think you want to hear, or they'll just repeat your biases back to you.
It's like you become the average of all the opinions you hear most often.
Exactly. So how do you get around that? Duke uses this technique from poker, actually. Getting feedback on your play, but without revealing what your cards are.
Okay, now that's interesting. How does that translate to real decisions, though?
Let's say you're thinking of moving to, I don't know, Austin, right? Instead of saying, hey, should I move to Austin? Ask something different. Like, what were the big things you thought about when deciding where you live?
So smart. You get their experience, but they're not swayed by knowing what you already think.
Exactly. It's about getting feedback that's more honest, less filtered.
Seems like a lot of this is about, like, questioning what you think is true and getting okay with not knowing for sure what's going to happen.
Absolutely. Because, let's be real, most decisions, not black and white. You've got incomplete info, you don't know the outcome, it's all gray areas.
And that's where people get stuck, right? Analysis paralysis. What do you do when it's a tough choice?
Luke's got tools for that too. One is, she calls it the happiness test.
Ooh, I like that already.
It's putting things in perspective. Ask yourself, will this matter in a week, a month, a year?
So if I'm debating what to eat for dinner, happiness test says, just pick something.
Right. Save your brain power for the stuff that actually matters long term. She also talks about free rolling. Basically, finding those times where the downside is tiny, but the upside, that could be huge.
Saying yes to the networking thing, even if you're tired, because you never know who will be there.
Exactly. Low risk, high reward. We miss those if we're too busy focusing on what could go wrong.
What about those times where it's like the options are practically the same? You've analyzed, you've made your lists, but you're still stuck.
Duke has well, it's a surprising answer. Flip a coin.
Seriously, leave it to chance.
Sometimes. There's a reason, though. She calls them sheep in wolf's clothing decisions. They feel like a huge deal, but the difference between choices, tiny.
Yeah.
So why stress over it if it doesn't really matter that much?
Recognizing when the mental cost is higher than the benefit of being right. That's freeing.
It is. Frees you up for decisions that do matter. Now, Duke knows not everything's a coin toss. Sometimes the stakes are high, you need a stronger approach. And that's where she gets kind of counterintuitive, the power of negative thinking.
Okay, now that's got to be explained. Negative thinking. Isn't that, well, counterproductive? How does that help you decide better?
It's not about being all doom and gloom or like a dose of reality, you know? Duke talks about mental contrasting. Basically, picture what you want to happen, but also the roadblocks that might pop up.
So if I'm imagining my business as a huge success, I also got to imagine, what? Trouble getting funding, competition, all the time it'll take.
Exactly. You're holding both those pictures in your head, right? The good and the maybe not so good. Helps you see what you might have missed, make tougher plans.
Like mentally preparing for the bumps in the road so you're more likely to actually reach your destination.
Exactly. She's also got this other technique. It's called a pre-mortem. You fast forward in your mind, imagine the decision totally flopped. Then you analyze, like, why'd it fail?
So say I want to invest in some new tech for my company. Pre-mortem would be, I picture it's a disaster, costs a fortune, impossible to use, my team hates it, and I trace back what happened to cause that.
Exactly. By doing that beforehand, you spot those red flags early. Right. You can plan for the challenges, maybe tweak things. It's like a fire drill for your decision making.
It seems like a lot of what Duke's saying is, we got to shift how we're looking at things, question ourselves, and accept that, hey, we can't predict the future.
Absolutely. And that brings us to her main point, really. We should see our decisions like an investment portfolio.
Okay, that's an interesting one. What does that mean for actually making choices?
So an investor, they don't win every time, right? Some investments do great, some flop. Same with our choices. The goal is enough good ones to make the whole portfolio successful over time.
So it takes the pressure off, thinking you got to be right every single time. Just make the best call you can with what you know, and accept that luck's always going to be a factor.
Exactly. And it changes how we see failure. If it doesn't work out, it's not always because you messed up. It's information, you know?
Mm.
Learn from it, adjust, make a better choice next time.
This has been eye-opening, really. I feel like the takeaway is good decisions aren't about some magic crystal ball. It's about having the right tools.
Perfectly put. Understand what's going on, your biases, the role of luck, different perspectives, and have those strategies for when things are uncertain, because they will be.
I know, I'm leaving with a lot to think about. And some tools I can actually use, which is the best. Any last thoughts for our listeners today?
Just this, getting good at deciding. It's a journey. Be open to learning, keep questioning yourself, and know that you can always get better at it.
That's a great place to wrap up, I think. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been fascinating.
My pleasure.
And listeners, if you want to go even deeper, check out Duke's book, How to Decide, the NW1. Until next time, happy deciding, everyone.